for this video, I want to talk about having our home button here actually be a logo or an icon. This is similar to what you're going to do on your recipe book pages. So I'm just going to show you on my main class site that I've made up. So I've gone ahead and I've added in some styles so that way I've got my nice little nav up at the top. And I'm just going to, for the purposes of this, I'm going to add in a 1 pixel solid red border to my navigation just so that we can see what's happening where when I refresh my page. So in my index, the way that I have my page set up, I've got my normalize and I've got my styles, as you can see here. And then in my body, I have semantically marked up my nav as separate from the main content here. Now, as you can see in my nav, it's an unordered list, which, sorry, it's an unordered list here. HTML is forgiving. That has my index, my recipe book site, and the next site we're going to get to is the animated story page. And so for my demo, I do have the third thing, but you're just going to have the index and recipe book site. But in your recipe book site, you're going to do something similar where you've got your nav separated out from the main. Maybe you've got an article, maybe you've got an aside, however you want to structure it. Maybe you've got sections. And in here I have, in my list items, I have 3 items, and they are 3 list items, and the 3 links. I've got my index, I've got my recipe book site, and my story. Now, what I'm interested in doing is making this an image. Now, I've already made myself a little kiwi logo. We're going to meet this kiwi bird again later on, too. I'm going to show you how to make the kiwi bird. But for the moment, I have my kiwi bird PNG. So I've gone ahead and I've made this, it's got a transparent background on it. So you can make your logo in Illustrator or in Photoshop, however is best for you, and then save it as a PNG. And that's handy because it won't have a background to it. Now, if you have a JPEG, just remember it's going to take up a square and it will have a background to it. So if you want it to match the background color of your site, you'll need to set that background color inside your JPEG. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this from saying home to being my image. So I'm just going to go ahead and add IMG. Oops. IMG. And so again, I need my source. And then I need to navigate to it. Now, for my page, I've got my index. And my logo is inside a folder called images. So I'm going to need to write images/kiwi logo. Now I have a capital here. I don't want that. So I'm going to go ahead and make that a lowercase, but I also need to make sure then that I make this a lowercase. Otherwise I can't be sure that they're going to match. And now I want my alt text to be kiwi logo. And I want there to be a title so that way if you hover over it, you will know that this goes home. Now remember, images are self-closing tags, so I don't need to do anything except that. So I'm going to hit save. And now let's update and see what happens. Oh, my PNG is huge, right? Now you do see that it's a link. You can see that it's got home. And if I click on it, it goes to my index page. And then everybody else is underneath. That's not what we're looking for. So you're probably going to find that you've made your image large when you've been working on it, and then you'll need to make it smaller. There's a few things you can do. You can either go ahead and set yourself a style so that in this case, I'm going to go ahead and say class equals nav logo. So I could set myself a class and then style nav logo and say for that I want the width to always be, and in this case maybe I want it to be a percentage. Maybe I want the width to be 15%. Oops, I don't need. This is where, again, sometimes you can forget, am I in CSS or am I in HTML? Width is 15%. All right, well, what does that do? Okay, it's small, but it's still kind of breaking to another line. And I don't want that. So I also want to do display. I want that to be inline. It's still breaking the site. So maybe I want my width to be 75 pixels. And sometimes it's a matter of playing. Oh, there we go. Now it's fitting on one line. And so you're starting to see, okay, now maybe, do I want it over a bit? You can kind of play with things and see. Now, the other thing that's running into it is my padding. I've got a 15 pixel padding on all of my elements. So you can see how that kind of runs into things here. Maybe I want the width to be 100 pixels. I'm kind of playing with it and seeing. Yeah, that's a little bit closer. And now I kind of got this little, the nose is going over here. Now, maybe I want these guys to be a little bit closer to this one. So part of the thing is thinking about where we have set different bits of styling. So in this case, I've got the same padding is going to be applied to everything inside my nav. So the padding here comes in, my navigation list items are have a padding of 5 pixels top and bottom, 15 pixels right and left, a 1 pixel margin all the way around. Now, that's because I've set my styling to be for the list items that are part of nav. And there are other ways that I could do this if I wanted to, say, have the image here not be affected by the same styling as my other list items here. So what happens, and this is where, again, sometimes you try things out and see what happens. What happens if I instead move my link here? So it's inside the nav, but it's outside of the unordered list. Well, because the unordered list is a different level item, it's again, we've got ourselves a issue with breaking for block level items. So this is where, again, you're going to try different things and see how they work and see how you want to style them. And I'm like, okay, no, that's not what I'm looking for. So I can go back here and I say, okay, no, I do want that to be a list item. Post you here. Handy little shortcut. Option, Command, and period will close out the most recent opened tag. So that is where I got my little closed list item there. So, okay, that's closer to what I want. So I want that here. Well, maybe then what I need to do is move the padding from inside of the navigation list items. And instead, what I need to do is I need to give these guys a class. Nav links. I'm going to save that. Now, I do want to leave some of this stuff, but I'm going to take out my padding. I want the rest of this, but what I want here is nav list padding. And make sure that nav links is what I have links. With a plural? Yeah, that's a plural. Okay. Now you notice this is stuck over a little bit, but these guys have retained their padding. So what you want to do is figure out the best place to put various pieces in order to make sure that it is displaying the way you want it to. Now, the other thing that I could do here, I made my class. What if I don't want to add this extra class? I can actually instead have it be any images that are children of list items. So instead of nav logo, I can do LIIMG, and that should look exactly the same. As you see, nothing changed, and that's one less bit of code in here, because it's basically saying any images that are descendants of list items here, any images that are in list items, they will have a certain styling attached. And they will be 100 pixels and they will be inline. So now I want to go back and just get rid of my little nav border because I didn't actually want that. I just wanted that for the purposes of you guys being able to see where the padding is in relationship to the rest of the pieces, and it kind of set everything off a little bit. So now, a little bit closer, I've got my little kiwi that goes home, I got my recipe book site, and my animated story page. So now you can do the same thing with your logo in terms of how it's set with your links in your navigation. The other option, by the way, to make this guy smaller, in this case, I happen to know that I made my ping is only 23 kilobytes, so it's plenty small, so I'm not worried about loading. If your image is larger, what I would suggest is saving out a version that is the exact. Once you figure out, okay, 100 pixels, I'm happy with it, make a new version of your image that is 100 pixels wide and keeps the ratio so that it is you're not squishing your image. But then you would make a new version, and then you can link to that particular version. Maybe it's the nav logo that you're making.